Hi, hope all is well. Welcome. I have to apologise. I had planned a technical session today in my gi with a training partner, but my training partner, not young Josh, my training partner was one of my students who, uh, from time to time, finishes. Well, he works for himself, so he can pretty well finish anytime he wants. But today he wasn't able to, and so at the last second, like literally at 20 minutes to 3, 20 minutes ago. I had to cancel. So I'm sorry, I'm stuck here behind a chair with no training partner. I just wanted to show some stuff, work some stuff on some technical work on what I call connection, which is really, really valuable for everyone, let alone um, strong people. It's also particularly good for elderly people, lighter people, everything like that. Was Mike? Wet and stormy, man, oh man. But at least you made it today. And Mike Lorden, it was good to see you. Rochelle, Marco, thanks for coming. So I think I'll probably do a shorter one today. Just talk a little bit about the book. The book's progressing so beautifully. It's exciting. In fact, I've spent so many hours, and Mike Lorden and Mike Clark both will know. Oh, it's good on you. So you're back, Paddy. I heard that there's no restrictions on travel anymore, at least. Um, I'm just talking to Paddy in Victoria because Victoria's been in probably the strictest lockdown of any jurisdiction anywhere in the world for a while. But anyway, so the dojo's back running, is it, Paddy? That's good news. Good to hear that. My daughter, I was speaking to my daughter today too. She said that the travel restrictions. Oh, good on you. That's good news. Well done, mate. So glad to hear that after all these months. I know there are dojos down there that just won't get through, so I'm glad you could. But anyway, the progress of the book is so good. I've spent for the last 9 months, sometimes up to 20 hours a day, and Mike Lorden and Mike Clark both have written books, so they understand that it's us, Torbjörn, good to see you. They both know what it's like to have deadlines and so on. And once you hit the deadline, you pass everything through. I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs. Well, not really, but normally I'd be clicking away on the keys, looking for edits and so on. But I have my sister Louise. Hi, Lou, if you're watching. Louise lives in North Queensland, and she's one of the sharpest proofreaders around. She did that for many years for some large corporations. And my good buddy Brad Hansen. Brad was one of Australia's top lightweight fighters over the years. He fought with Dolph Lundgren in the state team events. Daniel, good to see you. Herman, Brad Hansen fought with Daniel in some interstate. Fought with Dolph Lundgren. Dolph was the heavyweight when Brad lived in New South Wales for many years. He's from Trevor Field's dojo in North Queensland. One of the best, man, I tell you. But he and Dolph fought in the New South Wales team, and in fact, when they fought Victoria, I think he and Dolph were the only two that won their fights. But Brad was great. Now, Brad's obviously been in the corporate business world for many years. He's just a few years younger than me. But he also has a super sharp eye. And I can tell you, once everything was done, I passed it on to Brad and my sister, and they've picked up little things which I can't even see anymore. It's like I read a sentence, and I'm really glad that they've tuned in because they've picked up a lot of little things which I haven't seen. Just excuse me, I'm having a cuppa. So no physical training today. I'm really sorry. The principle of connection is so powerful. And I'll just explain what I was going to do. The concept of connection where I normally use optimize instead of maximize. Yeah, no. Oh man, I feel for you because if I sent a print file to the printer that was last week's compared to this week's, it'd be cheese and chalk. That must have been a nightmare when you found that out because what Brad Hansen and my sister Louise have uncovered little things, like double full stops or small typographical errors, and quite often they're typographical errors which also end up spelling a real word, so the spell checker doesn't pick it up. It might, for example, you might have been saying hard style when it comes up hand style, so you miss that, and it takes an eagle eye to pick it up. I feel for you, Mike. That just must have gutted you. Yeah. Oh man, what a nightmare that would have been. So what I was talking about with I rarely use the word maximize because I don't believe in maximizing power. I mean, I believe in optimizing power. When you take a stance, you got your body weight, your angle, your distance, your time, and your speed. If you maximize power, you'll lose potential for balance, and that's what smart fighters do. Is they wait for their opponent to overreach and over maximize, and they take advantage of that little extension. So I like to optimize. But when it comes to the principle of connection, sometimes maximizing really is good, because the more of your body touching theirs at any time, the more control you have. You know that because if I have one hand holding a collar, it's one thing. But if I have my collar, my elbow on their chest, my arm underhook here, and my elbow in the crook of their arm, you maximize the amount of contact. And I'll get into this next time we do a technical session, because it's so valuable, not just for grappling, but also for stand-up, because sometimes when you're standing up, when you're in close range, it's one thing to block and counter, but it's another thing to block and maintain touch. The Chinese talk about this a lot. The downside is that there's a lot of technical work that is done which really isn't practical, because they just don't pressure test it against a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you. A lot of Chinese martial arts do that because they're mostly practiced by elderly people who use it for health. And as Unko Itosu said in 1908, it's very, very important to recognize that whilst training for maximal destruction, learning how to hit really hard and kick really hard and really smash people is important, we also have to recognize that karate also represents a form of physical culture that is very, very good for health, and particularly as you get into later years of life. Clarence, good to see you. Good day. Hello. Good to see you, Clarence. Rob, thanks for coming, man. So I wanted to really show you some great stuff today. The other thing I wanted to show you is it's not just connection with your opponent's body. It's also connection with the ground. And I've often said this: if you get into a swimming pool and float in a swimming pool and try and throw a punch, you'll get the idea of how important it is to have connection. Now, not just connection, but friction connection. Because if you can have full connection on an ice skating rink and you throw a punch, and the same thing will happen as though you're in water. You have very little friction because of the slipperiness. So you need friction as well. There's no good of trying to fight on a slippery surface. And if you are on a slippery surface, the first thing you do naturally, without even thinking, is seek maximal connection. It means if you're fighting someone on a slippery surface, you're not going to throw a kick. You'll keep both feet on the ground. And sometimes, if the situation allows it, you'll even put a third point of contact down your hand or a knee. And this is where you start to see the reality of some of those traditional kneeling fighting stances and so on that we look at. It's just like people look at it and go, this is so dumb. But then you go out onto a muddy field or a rainy field or an ice skating rink or ice where it's super slippery. And if you don't have 3-point contact, you're bound to fall on your backside. So I really wanted to go over some of those points in this session. But as I said, I got the best laid plans of mice and men. So what I thought I'd do, if you're keen, and open up. I love looking. Oh, Kieran, good to see, and Pal Knip, good to see you. Didn't see you, Kieran, and Herman, good on you. We're all celebrating Paddy Pinto's back in the dojo in Victoria. I hope that other dojos can get there too. But what I thought I'd do today is, if you're interested, because it can be fun, is I've got my iPad and I've got my Zen brush. Is that what it's called? Zen brush program. And I just thought, if you like, I can show you some Japanese kanji and so on that are relevant to karate, because it can be quite fun to do that. So anyway, let's hear some content as well. If anyone does Japanese or writes Japanese, but also if anyone has any questions about the book. By the way, it's so good. We've found the printer. We're sorting the printer out. I've got to organise the payment for the book, which happens tomorrow. Would you believe? Once the initial 50% deposit is down, then we get a mock-up, and then we're away. And right now I'm designing die-cut boxes so that when we mail them out, we don't have to worry about the books getting damaged. What we do is we wrap them in cellophane. Oh, Sal, good to see you. And then we have die-cut boxes which are specifically designed for the book. They fold up, cardboard boxes, and away they go. And the book is optimally protected. So here's my iPad with my Zen brush. Now, if you're interested in working on Japanese, the Zen Brush 2 and the Zen Brush 3 are really fantastic. This is Zen Brush 3, but I have to admit I only just got it yesterday. It's brand new out, and so I'm still learning. But it does wonderful things. I'm going to turn this off me for a little bit and put it on here. But for example, I can come here and add water. So that adds, you can see there's a slight color change, and that adds water. Now when I go back to the brush and I come back here to the drier brush, and now when I add, so you see how the water is starting to affect that. This is just a little bit of fun. So that's the kanji for dragon. But you see, by doing the water first, so I'll do that again and show you what else. See, you do the water there. This is more for artistic style. And then I go back here, but I also increase the wateriness of the brush. And now, see how it's starting to soak in. Like that. So that's the kanji 4. You see how it really soaks in there. So this program, Ichigeki Hisatsu, one of my favorite kanji quotes. Well, we can look at that by all means. So this program, Zen Brush 3, actually allows for some really fantastic creativeness. Well, I'll clear all that and we'll look at some kanji. I'll go back to normal here on the brush. Okay, so Tigre's looking at Ichigeki Hisatsu. That's a cool combination of techniques too. But the thing to remember about kanji is that it's one thing to do the kanji, it's another thing to get the correct stroke order. Because let me just quickly draw the geki. See, that kanji is the kanji geki for Ichigeki. One blow. But you can see it's quite complicated. So if you don't learn the correct stroke order, what happens is the finished article isn't the same. So it's like trying to draw a word, hello, and you do it out of order and it all gets screwed up. So it's the same with kanji. You have to learn the stroke order. And the stroke order generally goes from left to right from top down, and from middle, when you have bilateral, from middle, then left, then right. So, for example, a simple one might be, here we go. A simple one might be something like karate. So the first kanji of karate, you start at the top. I'm trying to write this so you can see, and you come down like that. And then the next one, you go left to right, top to bottom, left to right. So there's kara. Okay. Then for te, I'll just increase the brush size a bit. For te, again, you start at the top. This one's a bit tricky. You go down the middle first. Hang on. Did I? Because I'm doing it sideways, I think I got that wrong. Clear. You go left to right, top to bottom. So I made a mistake there. Look, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's te. So when you do the two together now, let's say karate, empty or sky, it also means sky, so the emptiness. Kara, te, and that becomes karate. Now you can see there's different styles as well. So I'll write that again in a very, very square, almost like formal style. So you see that's like that. That's quite formal. But if I was to relax it up a little bit without going too progressively, see that? I start to... So then you start to brush it up a bit and it becomes more of a brush stroke sort of thing. So it can be quite fluid and enjoyable. And if you watch that, you see those kanji, the beauty of this program. Look what happens if I add the water brush now. You see how the brush strokes themselves start to get soaked into the water. It's very cool. And so if you wanted to, what you can do is you can add spot water. So it's almost like you spit water on it. Make it very, very liquid, and you just do a little bit of water around there. And you see how that kind of... And so what you can do is, this can be a lot of fun. For example, let's just put some spots of water. See, over the page, just put some spots like I'm splashing water. Then I go to the brush, and let's say I write the kanji for dragon, let's say, once again. And you see, by having those spots of water, it kind of adds a real, it's almost like the dragon is hiding in the clouds up in the mountains sort of thing. So I love being able to do that with this program. I'm only just learning because it's a more developed feature of this ZenBrush 3. But have a look at ZenBrush 3. You might enjoy it. So if I wanted to write... My biggest nightmare has always been remember the individual kanji reading for an of onyomi, kunyomi. Well, that's everyone's nightmare. Tigray, wouldn't worry about that. You're a bit of a polyglot. How many languages do you speak? I think last time I spoke to you speak English, Italian, Spanish fluently, but then I don't know what comes after that. What else do you speak, Tigray? It says Tigray here. That says New Zealand or suicide in his name, but that's Tigray. And I don't, a bit like karate, learn the basics correctly. 100%. There you go. That's exactly right, Mike. You just get the basics right, and the basics consist of good solid stroke order. And I spent when I was in Japan for that year, I had calligraphy in school twice a week. And then once a week, I used to go to a calligraphy teacher who taught me. And if I remember right, in the whole year, we basically just did nothing but, I pressed the wrong button. I did nothing but a kanji that I forgot. 1, 2, 3. Nothing but this kanji for like 6 months. And he used to give me just 1 or 2 kanji for the whole year. It was incredible. Yes, you can, Mike. Lord, ZenBrush 3. So, for example, if I was to go, here we go. Look, I'll go this way. Oops, no, I won't. I'll go a little bit of English. There you go. There's Mike. And then what I can do is I can go down here and I can save as new, and it'll save it. So now when I go into my photos, it'll save. Where are my photos? Oops. Forgive me, I'm not super savvy about using all these things. Where are we? So you can save. Well, here you go. Look, it even gives you option to save in JPEG, PNG, and different formats, different sizes as well, Mike. So if I go into my photos here, you can see down the bottom, there's some of my photos, or I can see some of the calligraphies that I've been doing, but there it is saved. So yes, by all means, it is very possible. It's a really good program. I really enjoy doing it, and it allows you to practice without going through reams and reams of paper, which you end up doing. I used to practice on newspaper when I was practicing with calligraphy, because you just go through so much. So that's pretty cool. So let's get back to here. I'll try to keep it as clean as possible. So 1, where are we? 1. 2. English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian, as well as some Japanese. Yeah, that's it blows my mind, because I've spent my whole life even just trying to get a handle on Japanese, not to mention all those other languages as well. But anyway, there's Ichigeki. So there's 2 kanji. Now, if we add a 4th one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's hits as that's half of the Satsu, and I'm going to have to double check that, because I don't write it often enough. So there's Ichigeki Hisatsu. Obviously, it doesn't quite fit in the paper, so let me just do it a little bit smaller. Ichi. That's getting there with my shaky old style. But anyway, this program's ZenBrush. I mean, Mike Lorden, if you're keen on if you're keen on working on your calligraphy, this is a great way to do it. And yes, so that's Leo, that's correct. So if we look at, for example, just for fun, seeing we're working on this one, let me come here and let me splash some water around again. See the water coming down? Boom, there's some water there. Okay, you see the water on the page. Now I'll go back to the brush here and do a normal brush level. Okay, and then I'll just so that's Ichigeki with the water, but you can see by using that water, you can kind of play around with the whole idea of that that explosiveness of the Ichigeki, the explosiveness of the power punch. I'm just going to do it a little bit more. You got to experiment, because if you use too much water, that's what happens. It gets washed out. But you can see how much fun you can have with it. That's that program. It's really enjoyable, and there are, for people doing the martial arts who have an interest in Japanese culture, it really is a wonderful way to extend your understanding of karate. Because it was Shane Manor, and Harry. Yeah, you like the beard? This is my Movember. I'm doing a Movember beard. But, for example, you can learn. See if I can do it here, hold it up at the same time. Karate. I'm having trouble holding it up. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Karate, kara. That's the kara of karate. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's another way of writing karate, in a running writing style. And then te. There's te, karate. Now you can write te in a kind of running writing style as well, and end up with that. So if I do the two karate, whoops, get out of that. Where are we? If I do the two karate styles next to each other, you can have a bit of fun doing that too. 1, 2. I'm just going to make the brush a little smaller. So you start to see the difference in the two styles. It's like running writing. Karate in re style was. Thank you for. Yeah. Look, it can be a lot of fun. So karate is a good one to learn. You can work on, for example, the do part of karate. Karate do, there's the do, and if I was to do that more carefully and neatly, so that it is more strict, it looks something like that, right? But if you were to, I'll just open the brush a bit, make it a bit more watery, and free the style up a bit. Then you end up with something more like that. And then if you really want to flow it, you start to open. So you can see you can have a lot of fun with kanji, but like Mike Clark said, it's like karate. You really have to learn the basics, because too often I see people who try to get into the calligraphy without having spent any time on the fundamentals. And the first fundamental is get your stroke order right. It's like learning any language. The first fundamental is learn the pronunciation, because if you learn the pronunciation correctly, then your hearing improves. And here I am telling Tigray, who speaks 5 languages, how to learn a language. But like, I don't speak any language, but I've always worked on the pronunciation. You get the pronunciation right, and it makes everything more sensible. Well, the pronunciation of calligraphy is learning the stroke order. And then you learn little tricks. For example, when you write a 1, well, it's just 1 stroke. Okay? But that's not really 1. When you learn to write it in a writing sort of way, you've got this boom and then kum, boom. So you end up, you start to curve it. And then when you start to get that feel of the 1, and it turns it from just being a stroke on paper to meaning. It gives it a meaning. And another thing which is worth it, for example, the kanji for me, eye. So there's the start of eye, as in the eye that you look with. And, well, let me just go back and do it the formal way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what most people would see as the kanji for eye. Okay, which is, I won't clear that, but you can see kind of, let me clear it for a sec, because this is what, remember, they're like representatives. So if you think of an eye like that, and then it gradually takes on, so you can see where they take the picture of the eye and turn it into the kanji. For example, here's a really good way to see that. Here's the sun. And so they eventually put a dot in the middle. And then from there, the kanji became that. So you can see the connection. Oops. You can see the connection between the two. The sun became the kanji for the sun, which is a square with the stroke in the middle. Now, here's the cool thing. This is the sun, right? And this is a tree. Okay, so you put the sun, I'll see if I can, or let me move them over. See, that's the sun and a tree. Now, if I put the sun behind a tree, and that's not exactly how it should look, but you get the idea. What you have is the kanji for the east, because when the sun rises up, you see it through the trees in the east. So the east, the kanji for the east is that. So it's the sun behind a tree, rising up behind a tree. Yeah, there's a lot of connections. I got my start in calligraphy in English language calligraphy, Tigray. And I see a lot of connections to it. And one of the main connections, of course, is the balance of the kanji. So, for example, this is the kanji for writing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's the kanji for writing. But you see the key, I'll use the key here, is the equal distances between all the lines. If you get that part right, yes, Mike included an example of my writing in Shingi Tai. I'll check it out later, Mike. Yeah, you got to be careful. That's why, because I've got a lot of kanji in this book, but there is no way that I was letting, with the English kanji, Willie had a real good feel of what worked and what didn't, because obviously um, he has an eye for that, Willie, the designer. So you see that kanji, the top kanji there for the book, that's my kanji that I did, that Willie picked out of a bunch of kanji that I wrote, and he had the eye to work out which one really, really fitted for what he was looking for. But he picked a couple of kanji out of the ones that I did for this book, and I refused to let him use them because of that. Look at Mike, he put one in Shingi Tai. Now he wishes he didn't. Yeah, well, unfortunately, when it's on paper, that's your legacy. People will be talking about you for years, Mike. Yeah, he knew karate, but boy, oh boy, which kanji was it? But anyway, you got to be careful. So for the kanji for my book, I was really, really adamant about it. But, oops, wrong color. So get the stroke order right. This kanji that I just did there, if you watch the stroke order, top to bottom, left to right. Top. See, and the trick is to get all the strokes even. If your strokes weren't even, so that's exactly the same kanji without the strokes even. Having said that, there gets a point where a master calligrapher can break the rules and still make it look right. And then once you get their running writing, I've done a running writing version of this kanji in the book. That's basically the same kanji, but in a running writing style. So just like English calligraphy, when you master the strokes, you master everything. What is the translation of the scrolls in front of my dojo? Oh, that's a good question. But they're the same scrolls as in Hombu, and quite often in many, many dojos, not just Kyokushin dojos, but all kinds of martial arts. But Mike Lorden made a comment, not Mike Lorden, Mike Clark made a comment that the kanji for rain, and it does look kind of cool, because if you can imagine, you have like a house, but the window here, and well, let me undo them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's like looking at rain falling through a window. That's not a very nice example, but that's more like it. But and I'll just put the kanji in there so you can see what we're talking about, how it looks like it's rain falling when you're looking at it out the window. And then you start to write it a little bit quicker and it looks like that. So the scrolls in the dojo, Mike, they're the scrolls for the Katori and Kashima shrines, the two shrines, Katori shrine. And I just rode my bike there a few months before the lockdown. I was in Japan. I rode my bike to the Katori shrine. And, it's the home of the Katori Shingen Ryu, which I believe is probably one of the oldest existing martial arts styles in Japan. It's a stunningly beautiful old temple, which has a history of 2,700 years, but the buildings obviously don't go back that far, because they've been knocked down and rebuilt and burnt, and over years they just don't last that long. I'm just looking to see if I've got a photo of when I was there, actually, Mike. But the Katori shrine and the Kashima Shrine. So they're the scrolls which have the names of the deities of the gods of war in Japan. So that's why you'll see those two scrolls. I'm just looking for photos of either the scrolls or the temple. But it's very common to find those scrolls in dojos. So if you do have a permanent dojo and you want to make it, give it a touch of authenticity, well, then you just take a trip to Japan. Next time you're there, you don't have to go especially for it, but next time you're there, you try to pop into Katori and Kashima Shrine, which aren't too far from the airport at Narita. So you can double up and take advantage of the trip out to the airport and go and visit those temples, and you pick up those scrolls. You can buy the scrolls there. So they say Katori Daimejin and Kashima Daimejin, which is the god of Katori and the god of Kashima. And when they say god, they just basically just mean, a deity representing those qualities. Doesn't look like I've got it, unfortunately. But anyway, that's what they are, Mike. No, I mentioned to everybody that my training partner pulled the plug. And so I just thought we'd do some calligraphy instead. I planned a session. We talked about what we were going to do earlier on before you got here, Harry, but generally speaking, we missed out on the training. So there you have it. There's some kanji for you. And this program, Zen Brush, it's only $7.99, I think. So it's pretty cheap. And then, oh, by the way, I'm using a pen here. I had an Apple pen. It cost $299. I ended up giving it to my daughter because she's a graphic designer, so she uses it. And I bought this one for $29.95, and I think it's even better. But anyway, look, the thing about Zen Brush, look, I can use my finger as well if I want. Ichigeki once again. So I use my finger as well. It's just as good on the program. So look, I'm really sorry. I'm about not doing a training program today. I'll just turn everything off here. My apologies, but my buddy who was going to help me, unfortunately, he got called to a job, so he couldn't make it. But anyway, how much for my finger? 1/10 of all of my fingers put together. Yeah, no. Wait till I die, then you can crack one off. I'll mail it to you. How about that? Some people do that sort of crazy stuff. But anyway, so look, thanks for coming along, guys. My apologies for having no training, but I hope you enjoyed that little session on kanji. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to find that kanji that I did. Oh, that's a good idea. Just to finish off now, what I'm going to do, just for fun, I'm going to go through my book quickly. I've got my book. There's the book. And what I'm going to do is quickly go through. I'll scroll through. There's one kanji. So I'll show you some of the kanji that I've done for the book. So that's Bu from Budo. That's one of the kanji in the book. I'll just scroll through and find some. But I was pretty careful. I didn't want to make Mike Lawden's mistake. I love this one. This is probably one of the kanji that I really was happy with. That's the kanji for dragon. I love that one because it gets that nice feeling of the dragon moving through the clouds. There's Ichigeki Hisatsu. Put that in the book for you, Tigray. And Shinshin Shuren, training the body and mind. I love this one. This one came out too. I was really happy with this one because I used a different brush. But that says Doryoku Sambai, which means 3 times the effort, which was the favorite saying of Kimura Masahiko, the judo giant. And that's my illustration of Kimura. That's Kimura, the judo guy. I'll just, if I can find just one more kanji. I put one in the back of the book. There's the kanji for Us Shinobu. But there's one I put right at the very back of the book, and it's got a really nice story to it. It's not in this version of my the ePad, the ebook yet. Oops, where is it? Final. No, I don't think it's in this one, but I've added a really cool kanji, a really cool kanji in the back, which was one of Solsai's favorites. There's Ichigeki again in the back of the book. But anyway, look, the book's full of kanji. Hope you enjoy it, and I hope you enjoyed that little session. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Harry, Mike, Rochelle. Thanks for coming. My apologies for no training. Daniel, always good to see you here. Mike Lorden, thanks for your participation as always. Frederick, Harry, Leo, Us. If anyone ever has any questions about kanji or anything, by all means, get in touch. Anyway, guys, I look forward to seeing you on Friday, and hopefully I should have some good news about the progress of the book. It's all good news from here on in. I'm really happy with it, the way it's going. Just haven't dealt with the taxes and import duties to America and Europe and so on yet. So I'm sending some to North America, and I have someone distributing there. I'm sending some to, hopefully someone in North America, but they're just saying today they may not be able to do it. But anyway, I'll find someone in North America to distribute, and I've got someone in UK to distribute, and I'll distribute in Australia, and away we go. I learned hiragana. I learned katakana first. It took me all of 10 days to learn katakana because I was driving around Japan, and so I wasn't driving, I was too young to drive, but I'd see one katakana and I'd look for that katakana in all the signs, and katakana are very common in signs. And then once I could recognize that katakana, then I'd move on to another katakana, and in 10 days I'd learn them all really easily. And then hiragana. But whilst I'm learning hiragana, I was also learning kanji. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you. Us, appreciate your input, and look forward to seeing you Friday. Maybe my beard will be even longer. Us.